By the river, in a valley of green hills, stood an old house, surrounded by apple trees and tall maples. The mornings there began softly. A light mist drifted over the meadows, dew shone on the grass, and the sun was only just preparing to rise above the horizon. In this house lived a young woman named Maria. She was quiet and calm, preferring simplicity, a cup of mint tea, old books, and walks along the forest path that began not far from her home. Introduction. The calm before the stirring. Each morning, Maria went out into the garden. She listened to the rustle of leaves, breathed in the cool air. Birds sang, drops of dew sparkled on the leaves, and everything seemed slowed, as if time itself was moving carefully. She followed the small path that led to the river, almost without thinking, simply feeling her steps, listening to the whisper of the wind. Sometimes she carried with her a notebook, writing down small fragments of thought. She did not demand meaning from them. She simply let them exist. The house gave her a sense of stability, and the path was her quiet refuge. The problem, a shadow in the heart. But in recent days, something had begun to trouble Maria. She woke earlier than usual, with a weight in her chest. Inside there was something vague, like a shadow that grew slowly, quietly. In the evenings, as she sat in her chair by the window, she noticed her thoughts always returning to one memory, the day when her dearest friend, Anna, had disappeared. Maria and Anna had been as close as sisters. But one day, Anna simply left. She left no address, no farewell, not even a word of explanation. Maria never knew where she had gone, but she felt the emptiness her absence left. She tried to live on, but the wound remained, a quiet ache that lived in her. One morning, walking into the garden, Maria noticed something strange. The path to the river seemed longer than before. She slowed her step, listening more carefully to the forest sounds. The forest itself seemed to whisper something she had never heard. She stopped beneath an old maple tree. The leaves trembled softly, and sunlight filtered through the branches. And it was there she realized something. She no longer wanted to live in the shadow of the past. The journey. Steps forward. Maria began walking a little farther each day along the path. She never hurried. She allowed herself to linger, to listen, to feel. Sometimes she sat on a fallen log, watching the river flow, thinking of all the words left unsaid, all the time that had been lost. One day, passing farther than she had ever gone before, Maria saw, through the trees, a faint glimmer of light. Curious, she pushed through the undergrowth and found an old wooden gazebo, covered in ivy and moss. She had never seen it before. She did not know who had built it or why it was abandoned, but something about the place pulled her toward it. Maria stepped inside carefully. There was an old table, its surface coated in a thin layer of dust, and a worn-out chair leaning against the wall. She sat in the chair and listened to the silence. And then she remembered. Anna had once spoken about wanting a secret corner, a quiet place where she could hide whenever her soul grew heavy. Could this have been her secret place long ago? Maria touched the surface of the table. For a moment, she almost felt warmth beneath her palm. But she knew it was only her imagination. The air was still, empty. With a sigh, she opened her notebook, pulled out a sheet of paper, and began to write. She wrote Anna's name. She wrote the word sorry. She wrote the words where are you? The words fell slowly, one by one, onto the page. Tears welled in her eyes. She cried, wrote, then simply sat in silence. When the page was full, she folded it, closed the notebook, stood up, and quietly returned to the path. The twist, a sign from the past. On her way back, as the light began to fade, Maria noticed something unusual lying among the fallen leaves. A small scrap of paper, almost hidden beneath the branches. She bent down and picked it up. It was a note. The ink was faded, but the handwriting was unmistakable. She knew it instantly, it was Anna's hand. The note read, "Greater than, to the one who seeks, follow the path that leads to the river." Maria froze. Her heart trembled. It was her friend's handwriting, from long ago. She stood still, the paper in her hand, listening to the sound of the wind moving through the treetops. This was a sign, a fragile bridge reaching from the past into the present. But why here? Why now? Her steps quickened. She walked toward the river, her mind alive with memories, walks with Anna, endless conversations, laughter, dreams, and plans once made. All of it felt distant, yet alive again. Dash dash dash. The crossing, toward the truth. The forest path brought her to the riverbank. She could already hear the water moving, steady and calm. The evening light lay softly across the trees. Maria felt her heart beating faster, but it was not fear. It was resolve. She stood at the edge of the water. The river flowed peacefully, reflecting the pale sky. In the distance she saw the glow of the village bridge, lanterns faintly shining. She sat down on a stone, opened her palm, and looked again at the note. She read the words aloud, her voice barely more than a whisper. Greater than, to the one who seeks, follow the path that leads to the river. It felt like a message, a riddle. She had already followed the path. She had come here. What else was she meant to find? And then she saw it. Across the water, on the opposite bank, a figure was standing. A woman, slightly bent forward, staring down at the water. Maria could not tell at first whether it was Anna herself or only her shadow. But her heart told her the truth. She stood up and called softly. Anna, is that you? The figure lifted her head. The moonlight revealed a face, familiar, though changed by time. The woman nodded faintly and stepped closer to the edge of the river. Maria understood. The bridge between them was not wood or stone. It was trust, forgiveness, memory. The river was shallow here, only up to the ankles. Maria stepped slowly into the cool water, her feet touching the smooth stones beneath. The woman on the other side moved forward as well. They met in the middle of the river. The water rippled around them. They stood face to face, silent. Dash dash dash. Resolution. Words that heal. Anna spoke first. Her voice trembled. I was afraid. I didn't know how to come back. Maria listened without rushing, her eyes calm, her face open. I left because I was broken inside, Anna continued. I thought I would only weigh you down. It felt easier to disappear. Maria closed her eyes for a moment. Her heart carried pain, sorrow, but also compassion. Softly, she replied, I lived without you, but I never stopped waiting. I don't blame you. I only wanted us to return to each other. Anna's eyes filled with tears. Her voice grew quieter. Forgive me. Maria reached out her hand. Their fingers touched lightly, warmly. The night was hushed all around them. Only the river whispered, and the leaves rustled overhead. Maria whispered back, I forgive you. For a few long seconds, they stood in silence, their hands joined. Then they slowly stepped back, each to her side of the riverbank. Yet the distance no longer mattered. A bridge had been built, of forgiveness, of reunion. Dash dash dash. Conclusion. Life beyond the shadow. The next morning, Maria awoke with peace in her soul. The heaviness she had carried for so long was gone. She wrapped a light scarf around her shoulders, took the note in her hand, and stepped out into the garden. She followed the path to the river again. But this time, she saw something new. On the opposite bank, walking toward the gazebo, was Anna. Maria smiled. Warmth filled her chest. She walked slowly, savoring the rustle of leaves, the quiet flow of the river, the gentle breath of morning air. They met again, this time not in shadows, but in daylight. Anna extended her hand and said softly, Thank you for staying. Maria smiled, nodded, and together they walked forward. Not along the old paths of the past, but along a new road, one where each step was a choice to walk side by side. The morning mist lifted. The sun rose over the forest, its golden rays spilling across the water. And everything around them breathed with calmness, filled with quiet meaning. The end.